Net Control, this is KR6WJ with PSA traffic for the EOC.
Thanks for joining us on the overview of the Preliminary Safety Assessment Process, or PSA for short. The PSA is the first thing we do immediately after an earthquake. The PSA concept came from a discussion we had with Don Brown back in 1998 when Don was the Cupertino city manager. Don told us that immediately after an earthquake or other infrastructure disaster, one of the first things the city needed was an understanding of the state of the city in terms of casualties and damage, so they could prioritize the resources needed to help the community. From this requirement, the PSA process was born. The PSA is a snapshot of the state of the city immediately after an earthquake. As a snapshot, we recognize that the information is not complete, but it is sufficient to give the city an immediate look at the damage so the EOC can prioritize the response necessary to save lives, protect property, and speed the recovery. The PSA is not a citywide windshield damage assessment. Instead, it's designed to give the city an immediate view of the problems. It is a high-level look at the city, not a detailed street-by-street, house-by-house assessment. CARES members are tasked with performing the PSA. Because of the randomness of where we live and our ability to communicate among ourselves by amateur radio, we are well suited to perform a cursory field review, report our findings, and provide a roll-up to the EOC fairly quickly after an earthquake occurs. There are two things that make up the PSA. First, it's the information. The information that we collect helps jumpstart the city's common operating picture and includes a view of things such as injuries, structural damage, fires, utility problems, road access problems, and power failures. It's also a process. The PSA defines how the information is to be collected, recorded, transmitted, and passed on to the EOC for their action. There are two forms that we use for the PSA. The form you will use in the field is the Cupertino Citizen Corps Form COES 105, the Situation Status and PSA form. This form is where you will record your observations as you perform the PSA. The form that we use in the EOC is Form COES 106, the Situation Status and PSA Roll-Up form. This form is used to collect the results of all reported PSAs. We'll take a look at this form a little later on. But first, let's take a look at the form you'll be using and the data you need to collect. The first category of the assessment is on injuries. CARES follows the first part of the simple triage and rapid treatment process, also known as START. This training video won't go into all the details of START, and we recommend that you check out the training material on that process for more information. As you perform the PSA, and if you come across anyone with an injury, take a look at the subcategory column for hints on what to look for. These hints are directly out of the START process. As a side note on injuries, when anyone encounters someone in any kind of medical distress, we know it's going to be difficult for any responder to make a note and simply pass them by. The decision will always be yours to either render assistance or keep on going. However, if you do stop, you now shifted from the PSA mission to becoming a first responder, and you may not be aware of a more serious problem further along on your route. If possible, find someone to assist you with the injured so you can proceed with the preliminary safety assessment. Structural damage is the next section and follows the CERT definitions for light, moderate, and heavy damage. Similar to the injuries section, hints of what to look for are listed in the subcategory column to help remind you of what type of damage falls into which category. Sometimes, assessing the damage may not be as clear-cut as to which category a structure belongs. As a rule of thumb, when in doubt, assign it to the higher, more severe category. The three remaining categories on the PSA form capture the balance of the risk areas that are of interest to the city. A fire is any situation where an active fire exists or was already extinguished. The hazard section covers a variety of problems that may arise with utilities. Be alert for the smell of gas indicating a leak somewhere in your neighborhood. Watch for broken sewer lines in the street. These could be health problems in the making. Same thing applies to broken water mains or water running down driveways or out from underneath foundations. Note if electrical power is out in your neighborhood. Lastly, are there access problems? These could be from downed trees or utility poles, road deformations, or some other kind of obstruction that would prevent the sheriff, fire, EMS, or public works from getting through. In all cases, we are only interested in how many counts did you find for each of the problem areas. As you perform your assessment, how you count and record the number of problems is up to you. However, counting problems with tally marks is a good way, especially when we don't know the final count. Tally marks are essentially a stroke of the pen to indicate one occurrence. When I walk my neighborhood and come across a house that meets one of the criteria, I enter a line in the count box. The fifth line completes a set of 5, and then I start all over with the sixth encounter. For serious occurrences, record the address or other notes. You won't pass this information initially, but you may receive a follow-up request from the EOC for details once the EOC is staffed and are in a position to direct assistance to the field. Completing the form involves filling in a couple of fields at the top. When did you perform the PSA? Record the date and time. Enter your name and call sign. Enter your map grid, and don't forget the number of units surveyed. Don't worry about some of the other fields at the header and the footer. These fields are used by CERT and the ARCs. Just a quick note on map grids. Cupertino Citizen Corps and CARES uses the Santa Clara County GIS map grid system. As you take a look at this sample map, note the letters along the left margin and numbers along the top. This may give you a rough idea in which grid you live, but I recommend you pick up a paper copy of the map off of the CARES website or from the EOC and absolutely confirm your exact grid location. If you're not sure of your home grid, please check with the EC, any of the AECs, or the Citizen Corps coordinator for help. Okay, so that's the information we need to collect. Let's take a look at the PSA process itself. After an earthquake, the first things you need to do are take care of yourself and take care of your family. Is anyone injured? Is everyone safe? Do not even think of responding and taking a field assignment if there is any problem at home. The last thing you need is a nagging distraction in the back of your mind during deployment. Confirm your readiness to respond. Is your Go Kit assembled? Are your batteries charged? Do you have copies of all the field forms that you'll need? Obviously, this is not the time to start any of these preparations, but it's always a good idea to perform a quick mental inventory of your response readiness prior to checking into the net. Okay, you're ready to go. Next, turn on the radio and listen for the CARES emergency net on TAC 1. Check into the net when you hear the net control call for check-ins. Listen for information about the event, and wait for confirmation to start the PSA. You just heard the CARES needs to perform the PSA, so what's next? This really depends upon you. First and foremost, if you have an HT, continue to monitor the net. If you don't have an HT and you plan to walk your neighborhood, tell Net Control you will be away from the net without radio contact as you perform the PSA. Your assessment may include a walk up and down the street looking at a lot of houses. A sample size of between 20 and 50 houses is more than sufficient to give the city an indication of how things are in your neighborhood. If you live in an organized neighborhood with more houses than that, attempting to check all the houses might delay getting your report to the EOC. If this is the case, you may want to send a first report once you have completed a portion of your assessment and then provide an update later on. Because the PSA is preliminary, we are looking for the obvious. Stay on the street, don't look over other people's fences, and definitely do not go in their backyards. To perform the assessment, first step back and take a big picture view of a house and check for obvious problems. Look at the horizontal and vertical lines of a house as discussed during the damage assessment training. Check for exterior cracking in the walls or broken windows. Lastly, check the surrounding ground for cracks, deformation, or water or sewage leaking out. While this size of an assessment takes more time, it will give us a good sample of what's going on in your part of the city. A more limited assessment is stepping out in front of your house and checking the homes in your surrounding area. This sample could be between 3 and 6 homes. Again, check the horizontal and vertical lines of the houses, as well as look for cracks and leaks. This assessment will go quicker than a full street assessment and still provide valuable information to the EOC fairly quickly. Lastly, maybe you have limited mobility and all you can do is look out the front window and assess the houses directly across the street from you. Don't forget to include your house in the number of houses surveyed. Even with a small number of houses checked, this is still very useful to the city since your report may be the only report they receive from your area. Once you are done with your PSA, it's time to get ready to send your report. In this example shown here, note the use of tally marks for the different areas on the worksheet. Finally, total up the number of occurrences that you found for each category and record the numbers on the form. This will make passing the data by radio a lot easier. When we pass PSA traffic, you will only need to send the counts for each section with a break in between. When done, you would have passed 13 numbers in total, along with your map grid and the number of units surveyed. What does it sound like? Well, let's listen to the exchange.
Net Control, this is KD6QPP with PSA traffic for the EOC.
KD6QPP acknowledged. EOC, are you ready to copy PSA traffic?
EOC is ready.
KD6QPP, your message number is 30. Send your traffic to the EOC.
At this point, the net control operator confirmed that the EOC was ready to receive traffic and assigned a message number to the sending station. In Cupertino, because we only have one set of message numbers for all intra-city message passing, the net control will always make the message number assignment for you. Okay, the net control has cleared you to pass your message. Go ahead and call the EOC and start the message.
EOC, this is KD6QPP with PSA traffic, message number 30. Break.
Okay, continue.
PSA message is, number of houses surveyed is 24. Map coordinate is Mike 18. Break.
Okay, continue.
At this point, the sender has engaged the EOC and has passed two critical pieces of information, the survey size and his location as the map coordinate. The balance of the message is to pass the data. Listen to how the data is passed by section.
Section 1 is 8030. Break.
Okay, continue.
Section 2 is 1151. Break.
Okay, continue.
Section 3 is 1. Break.
Okay, continue.
Section 4 is 2301. Break.
Okay, continue.
Section 5 is 0. End of message. This is KD6QPP.
Acknowledged. This is EOC, KK6EWQ, back to net.
This is KK6FPI, net control for the Cupertino emergency net. Other stations with PSA traffic, please identify now.
Note that each section was identified, followed by only the numbers that made up that section. Passing traffic this way is very efficient, with most PSA messages being passed in about a minute. This includes the setup, passing the data, and the handoff back to net control. So what does this look like from both ends? Let's take a look at this one more time.
Net Control, this is KD6QPP with PSA traffic for the EOC.
KD6QPP acknowledged. EOC, are you ready to copy PSA traffic?
EOC is ready.
KD6QPP, your message number is 30. Send your traffic to the EOC.
EOC, this is KD6QPP with PSA traffic, message number 30. Break.
Okay, continue.
PSA message is, number of houses surveyed is 24. Map coordinate is Mike 18. Break.
Okay, continue.
Section 1 is 8030. Break.
Okay, continue.
Section 2 is 1151. Break.
Okay, continue.
Section 3 is 1. Break.
Okay, continue.
Section 4 is 2301. Break.
Okay, continue.
Section 5 is 0. End of message. This is KD6QPP.
Acknowledged. This is EOC, KK6EWQ, back to net.
This is KK6FPI, Net control for the Cupertino emergency net. Other stations with PSA traffic, please identify now.
As mentioned earlier, there's a companion PSA roll-up form, COES 106, that is used in the EOC to collect the data from the field. The PSA data can be captured by paper, with only the relevant data being written down. Note the rows of categories align with the data that is passed by the sending station. The value of this form is that the EOC knows exactly what data is coming next and makes only the minimum number of entries to capture the data. Another way of capturing the data is to record it directly into a spreadsheet to be sent by packet. To make it packet ready, the form is rotated 90 degrees so that the person recording the reports essentially can enter a number and then tab to the next field. This format makes it easy to create a packet message to be sent to the EOC, so once the EOC is staffed, the data can be retrieved and processed by the Planning and Intel section. And that's the preliminary safety assessment process. For more information, check out the website, specifically the training page and documentation and reference section for presentations on the PSA process. Also, get familiar with the Field Communications Operations Handbook for a description of the PSA process, a sample of the forms, and a text version of the message exchange. And of course, please make sure you join us for the next PSA exercise that we run annually. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please contact the Cupertino EC, any of the AECs, or your training officer for more information on the PSA process.